Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Marina Zanchi, the Director of ADEA, the European Commission for Health and Digital. And thank you very much for your presence today and a warm welcome to our event, Empowering a Human-Centric Industry for the Twin Transitions. This event is organized by our agency, ADEA. We will present the EU-funded projects committed to driving the green and digital transition. And we are going to emphasize the pivotal role of skills in tackling contemporary challenges for our industry. Over the years, the European Commission has funded lots of projects and invested very strongly in research and innovation. And these under the framework programs Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe. And ADEA is a key player in supporting the implementation of projects funded by these programs. And we have a clear mission to enhance the transition to a green and digital economy and to increase the autonomy and the resilience of the European Union and its industry. ADEA currently manages over 450 projects in these fields, and 90 more will be signed very soon in the months to come. The green and digital transition represents a massive effort to adopt more environmentally sustainable practices in Europe at a scale that can make the difference for the current and future generations. But to achieve this, a human-centric approach is essential and in line with the vision of the European Green Deal. Today, we will dive into how policymakers and industry are working to accelerate the implementation of Industry 5.0. But before introducing our distinguished guests, I would like to mention that we will have a Q&A session at the end. And for that, you can see on the screen all the details how to interact with us via the Slido. Now, let's take a few minutes to immerse ourselves in a compelling video. The short film provided by the Upskill project set the scenes and prompts reflection on the role of progress in our society and its implication. So let's watch together the movie. Thank you.
When you hear the word progress, what immediately springs to mind? For many people, progress means technological and scientific innovation. And to a large degree, this is true. Science and technology have driven profound social and economic changes. The mechanization of agriculture shifted millions of people away from the countryside into urban employment. The steam engine and electricity unleashed unimaginable productive forces. Automation created new types of jobs and the need for new skills in manufacturing, but also pushed workers into a growing service sector where new employment opportunities were being created. Technology means products can be mass-produced at a lower cost, allowing the average person access to a range of goods and services previously only available to wealthy elites. But progress, whether it be technological or societal, is not a linear process. Each industrial revolution was marked by long periods of upheaval and change that led to huge leaps in productivity, economic growth and wealth creation, but also unemployment and poverty, leading to reform movements that paved the way for the worker and human rights that protect us today. Political and economic ideologies emerged that taught us that it is impossible to control and plan complex social systems like economies and the technological innovations that drive them, but also that embracing progress as prosperity and a focus on economic growth, productivity and profit does not neatly translate into economic resilience and societal and environmental well-being. There is much we have learned. But we are now amid a fourth industrial revolution and find ourselves asking the same questions as before. But Industry 4.0 is not just about robots replacing human workers. It is the accumulation of a wide variety of technologies, such as artificial intelligence, cloud computing, and cyber-physical systems, that, together with advances in automation, will radically change industry and manufacturing. The convergence of automation and digital technologies promises large increases in efficiency, quality, cost savings, and the mass customization of products. And digital twin technologies will enable design, testing, and analysis in a virtual world prior to real-world installation or production. The new technologies have almost endless possibilities, but what we need to understand is how these technologies can be integrated effectively with existing skills, how the nature of work will change, and what workers and businesses need to do to best prepare themselves for the transition. This is what the consortium from the European-funded project Upskill has set out to achieve.
So, welcome back. Very inspiring video. And thanks to the project Upskill for sharing this insightful material. As you saw, emerging technologies bring great expectations, improvement of efficiency, cost savings, quality, and also the mass customization of products. But they also bring many challenges, such as the threats of employment, the risk of lost skills, and the need for innovative solutions. And these developments also led to questions about the organizational business and society. Now, our speakers will provide their view on this topic. So now, without further ado, I'm honored to introduce our first speaker, Livio Stirbat, who is a member of the cabinet of Vice President Vera Jourova at the European Commission. And he's in charge of research and innovation, space, and sustainability. He was head of unit for Industry 5.0 and AI in science, in the Directorate General for Research and Innovation. But he also worked previously as deputy head of European Union adaptation to climate change and as deputy head for better regulation in research and innovation. Before joining the European Commission, he worked at OECD and the World Bank. So now the floor is yours, Livio.
Hey, thanks, Marina. It's a great honor to be here, virtually but also physically. So we're sort of following the theme of the video with our side event. I have a few slides that I wanted to present to better ground the proposal that the European Commission has made to industry at large to really frame and better shape this transition. We heard the very compelling video just now mentioning in the fourth industrial revolution with this new framework that the European Commission has developed, Industry 5.0. We are proposing, if you will, a sort of focus on exactly the issues that the video presented, but not in a revolutionary sense, but more in a better grounding, in a better to better make use of the knowledge and of the learnings we have drawn from past revolutions in order to make this one more inclusive and more sustainable. And you will see that this framework, Industry 5.0, is organized around three pillars. One is human centricity, and that is really something on everybody's mind in the accelerated conversation about automation that happens these days, especially with artificial intelligence. And I know that at the COP this year, this has been one of the headlining issues. But also resilience to make sure that the industry that emerges out of this transformation is one that is flexible and one that is adaptable. And last but very much not least, an industry that is sustainable, one that leads action on sustainability and respects planetary boundaries. So all of these things are meant to harness the technological transformation to make them the tool that they should be rather than the goal in itself, so that we do not have sort of a result of digitalization for the sake of digitalization, but always coming back to us humans who need to benefit from this. And some of the selling points of Industry 5.0, you can see there it's really focusing on improved safety for workers on the shop floor, really in the interaction that is increasingly frequent between humans and machines, but also cost cutting. So it's really something of a competitiveness offer that we make to industry. It's really not about driving up costs, on the contrary, making them more resilient, diversifying their supply chains, but also, as I mentioned before, really about empowerment, not replacement of workers, but empowerment. I believe the video was mentioning making use of the existing skills. That is really where the challenge is, in addition to preparing for the skills of the future. Making it attractive also to bring talent to industry. And in our conversations with industry leaders in Europe, we have identified this as one of the main problems they have, really a disengagement with the young generation for bringing them on board in the shop floor, for working. A lot of youth today are much more drawn to digital technology, really sustainability projects, but there's a lot that still needs to be done in terms of production, construction, and designing, engineering the future. So that is meant to address that problem, and also evolving and adaptability for a very fast changing world, thanks in no small part to climate change. I'll focus of the three pillars more on sustainability, because I think this is most fitting for a COP conversation. And you can see there that what we are investing in terms of research and innovation, so basically developing and framing the future, is really looking at resource efficiency for industry, and that links to doing better with less, improving environmental outcomes, sustainable development goals, as well as a really ultimate goal of production. And throughout this process, really giving industry a role and a voice in leading the transformation, so that industry is not necessarily, as is the case now, isn't it should be, just a partner to civil society and society in general, but really driving the agenda, showing how it can be done and how it should be done in terms of being a part of the solution. I'll very briefly mention some of the things that we've done before to prepare and sort of and get this initiative off the ground. We have an award where last year's winner was a very nice example of upcycling photovoltaic waste. So really making best use of the resources that are needed for the green transition. We have an expert group with a very compelling vision and argumentation for why it makes sense for industry to embrace this initiative. And also a lot of interest from venture capital. So there's been funds dedicated precisely to helping industry make this transition to Industry 5.0. And in terms of awareness raising, now moving on to implementation, in addition to some of the projects you will hear from today, we have launched a community of practice, really meant to bring people together and to people and companies to share good practices and to learn from each other. And we are also helping map out technologies that could be helping this transition. So a human-centric technology roadmap, really technology that is meant to empower and increase the range and capabilities of humans. I'll stop here with this sort of broader policy perspective, but I'm, like you, very keen to hear from the implementation side what this means more in the field, and how this will become a reality for citizens and policymakers around the globe. Thank you.
Many thanks, Livio, for your presentation. It was really inspiring. And it was, I believe, an excellent introduction to Industry 5.0. But now we go more towards an empirical part of our session. So without losing more time, I'm very happy to introduce Chris Ivory. We just watched together the Upskill video. And Chris is professor of innovation management at Mälardalens. I have
Mälardalen, close enough.
almost well pronounced university in Sweden, and scientific coordination of the project Upskill. To follow up with you what it was already mentioned in the video we shared together. So thank you very much, and the floor is yours, Chris.
Thank you. So, okay, in this presentation, based on Upskill and our discussions in Upskill, I'm going to take a slightly sort of higher level view than necessarily getting down into the empirics. If I had one message sort of bouncing off the previous conversation, I would say that we probably do need a bit of a revolution, if you like, to move in away from one mindset to a new mindset, a new way of thinking about how we do industry, et cetera, et cetera. So, and I think there's a route to doing that, which is really improving the power and influence of the workforce itself on industry. So I'll explain why and hopefully convince you of that as well. So to understand the technology we're dealing with, we need to make a distinction between two key sort of formats of basically the same technology, digital technology. One is automation. And this slide also suggests, which is the basic rationale for our project, that there's a sort of a managerial intent here. So some firms will be driven towards automation, which is the replacement of workers. And other types of firms in the bottom two rows will be more orientated towards being human-centric already. So these might be highly skilled firms, artisanal firms, firms creating technologies which are very difficult to make, so they can't get rid of people, and also they don't want to get rid of people. AA at the top, there's a full dedication there to automation. AAH, they kind of find out that you want to automate, but in the end you need to bring people back in to get things like quality and innovation. So this is the main distinction I want to make between automation and augmentation. So it would be unfair of me not to talk about the project generally. So here we are in the centre here. We have Anglia Ruskin, University of Milan, and MDU, my university, Mälardalen, and we are mostly responsible for the case studies, the ethnographic case studies. And what we try to do in the project is get a range of organisations which fit into those different categories. And it's probably worth making one point. We assume that the Italian case studies would be all artisanal and would put humans first and would not be interested in automation, but we found a real mix. So there's something around values here that comes into play in firms we've found. Some firms which are very artisanal are also very, very enthusiastic about automation. So some surprises. Companies like Ford, I'm sure they won't mind being mentioned. We would imagine they would be AAA, full-on automation, but actually not at all. They have a real commitment to not introducing technologies which disturb workers. They have a very good relationship. Well, they have a relationship with workers they need to keep balanced, if you want to put it that way. So, okay, where are we now? This is so this slide tries to capture two things. It's the sort of industry 4.0 epoch that we're in now, and have probably been in since, you know, the mid-70s, late 60s onwards, perhaps. And it's a particular mindset, and the mindset is around acceleration and escalation, as Hartmut Rosa puts it. And this mindset views workers, this is where I want to bring workers in a very particular way. So they see workers as a problem to production, because obviously the motive here is acceleration and escalation. So they see work as a potential barrier to that. They see, I've heard one firm, not in this project, actually refer to workers as the wage bill problem. So a desire really to, and I've heard firms in Sweden say similar things, again, not in this project. So giving workers a strong voice in this context is seen as very, very risky, and firms generally don't want to do it. It's absolutely not true of all firms, but this also describes the general ethos that we're living in, and we know its name, if you like. Now, this leads to demand for particular sorts of technologies, or a particular variant of this technology. It's all about automation, it's all about surveillance, it's all about data collection on processes to accelerate processes, produce more, and augmentation where it does occur, and cooperative robots and that sort of thing tends to be a step towards full automation, if you like, and it's certainly not trusted by the workforce for that reason. So where is it we want to get to? Well, we all want to get to Industry 5.0, and I've picked my terms carefully here: sustainable and shared prosperity, because actually this is in reality quite an old model. So in this mindset, let's forget about epochs and talk about organizational mindset, managerial mindset. Workers are regarded as citizens and they should have a decent standard of living. Skilled workers should be retained and supportive, workers are trusted, and workers have a strong collective voice, and this is not, well, it might be seen as problematic by firms, but it's accepted as a necessary evil, if you like, to keep relations with the workforce. And we have actually lived through this epoch. It's actually the post-war shared prosperity model that was prevalent in the US and Sweden and still to some extent in those countries, well, Sweden and Germany perhaps. So, and this kind of mindset also encompassed the environment as well. If you think about speeches by Robert Kennedy, for example, he encapsulated this shared prosperity model with limits to a growth model as well, and limits of what we can do with this planet. But anyway, as a general epoch as well, this mindset leads to augmentation aimed at better quality work and production, giving workers more control. Surveillance is not interesting because they trust the workforce. Cobots literally are cobots, they're not a step towards something else. And data collection becomes around providing information that allow workforces to work themselves. Management can take a step back. Workers usually know what they're doing, we find. So automation, data collection can also be around carbon footprint analysis rather than just speeding up production. Now, the other crucial thing about bringing workers in and giving them a stronger voice, and I am talking here about unionization, etc. Once workers have a strong voice, once they can be troublesome, and once they will go on strike if they need to, this can be around issues to do with sustainability. I mean, we tend to cordon off workers as some special category of person. Actually, it's us, right? They're citizens, so they bring these views into the organization to balance out the interests of shareholders, the interests of growth, acceleration, and so forth. So this is the model I'm suggesting. I'm suggesting something slightly more radical, and the route to that is empowering workers. And I'll just say one final thing. The whole history of technology change tells us that when workers are weak, we get automation. When workers are strong, we get augmentation. That's just going to claim that's a historical fact. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much. A lot of challenges ahead for your project, Upskill, but please keep us informed of the achievements in terms, as you mentioned before, of sustainability and shared prosperity. So very interesting indeed. But now let's hear about how was the discussion under Horizon 2020 for the centric approach, because it was already well taken into account. So I give the floor I will present more before. I will have the pleasure to present and introduce Dr. Nikki Cusi, which is our third speaker, and she's serving as Managing Director of the IT Manufacturing Co-Location Center Southeast, located in Athens, and supported by the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, EIT. Previously, she served as a project manager and coordinator in several industry-driven international projects, focusing on development and implementation of manufacturing, innovation, and business strategies. She also is coordinated the EU-funded project Thomas. So please, Nikki, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the introduction, and it's a real pleasure to be here today and be part of this panel. So I will start directly my presentation by introducing the effective industrial human-robot collaboration cluster. And this cluster was actually driven by the need to support human operators in their daily work, and also to improve flexibility of production systems. And it was initiated back in 2014, and it is now very well aligned with the principles of Industry 5.0 that we heard also in the previous presentations. So the vision of this cluster is the effective and sustainable manufacturing through hybrid production systems, and also to define a roadmap for these production systems, tackling the technology challenges and the needs coming from the industry. So coordinated by the Laboratory for Manufacturing Systems and Automation from the University of Patras in Greece, the cluster acts as a platform for European-funded projects to meet and exchange knowledge and experiences. And up to now, it has been engaging more than 40 funded projects under FP7, Horizon 2020, and Horizon Europe. So one of these projects was the Thomas project that had the vision to create a dynamically reconfigurable factory where mobile robots are introduced as workers that can navigate autonomously in the factory and undertake different kinds of operations like screwing, inspecting, drilling, and so forth, acting actually as active assistants to humans. In order to implement such a dynamic scenario, Thomas developed a software platform that digitalized the real-time status of the factory, and based on this digital twin, it used artificial intelligence techniques to make decisions in 3 levels. On the first level, how to optimally distribute and plan the tasks between the available resources. Then on the second level, on how the robots can perceive the real-time status of the environment, so to navigate without any collisions, and also to understand and adjust on the fly on the different process parameters. And then as a third level, how to understand human behavior and estimate the intentions of human operators so that the robot can adapt their behavior to the human needs in a safe way. So the solution was developed and implemented as a fully functional prototype, reaching technology readiness level 6, and the findings actually showed that we can achieve a significant impact for production. We can reduce the production stoppages since the mobile robots can easily and fastly reconfigure themselves and adjust to the product variations based on the changes we need to do in the processes when a new product is added in the factory. It can increase human ergonomy since the robots can undertake the heavy and repetitive tasks, allowing the human operators to focus on more delicate tasks that need their dexterity and flexibility, and also increase the number of product variants that can be produced in the same line, increasing the utilization of resources that are already there in place. What it is also interesting is that the solution was validated in 2 industrial sectors. First one was from the automotive sector, focusing on the needs of a large enterprise, Stellantis, for the front axle assembly line. And the second pilot came from the aeronautics sector, from Aeronova, focusing on the needs of small-medium enterprises that are producing small batches of wings that are then delivered for the final assembly. And it was really interesting actually because we had the opportunity to transfer the equipment in the factory and receive feedback from the actual operators on how they perceived the new technology. And I would like to highlight that what we saw is that it is very important for these human-robot collaborative applications to be safe and comply to the standards in order to be transferred to the actual production, but it is also important to make the operators feel safe when they are working with these new technologies, and also upskill them so that they can exploit the capabilities coming from these technologies and feel comfortable to do so. So these insights, together with the technical developments, were transferred in Sherlock project that came afterwards, and it added on top of that high payload collaborative robots and exoskeletons in order to build a holistic hybrid production system and further exploit the technology in additional sectors coming from renewable industry, contract manufacturing, machine building, and so forth. And we had also the successful results of these projects leading to increasing the human centricity and also giving to the project the second place in the Industry 5.0 award highlighted previously. And this brings me to the last part of my presentation. which tackles the question on how we exploit the results coming from these projects and how we can support them in their journey to commercialization. And the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, which is part also of Horizon Europe, can play this role effectively by the creation and support of knowledge and innovation communities. So on our side, EIT Manufacturing, we are one of these knowledge and innovation communities with the vision to boost innovation in manufacturing all across Europe. And to do so, we have 3 strategic objectives that are very much in line with Industry 5.0 principles. First one, to put people at the center of manufacturing innovation. And we are working on that in 2 levels. First level, to reduce the skill gaps and increase the skill agility by upskilling and reskilling the existing workforce, but also the future workforce on manufacturing, innovation and entrepreneurship. And at the same time, reinforce the attractiveness of the factory work environment using new technologies and innovation. Second objective, accelerate green manufacturing by promoting circular manufacturing through servitization of business models and also transforming industry towards net zero through a holistic and full value chain decarbonization approach. And last, to foster sovereignty and competitiveness by reducing the time to market for new innovations all across Europe. We are working on that in 3 structured programs. First one, creating content for reskilling and upskilling and diffusing it through our online learning platform, and also facilitating 5 international master programs focusing on Industry 5.0 in cooperation with leading universities all across Europe. Then, for accelerating time to market, we are organizing 2 open calls each year, focusing on technologies of high maturity that need the last push to be launched in the market. And finally, we are developing programs to support startups and scale-ups to their commercial expansion and reach to the European market. Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you, Nikki, for your very enlightening presentation. And thank you also very much for sharing with us the IT manufacturing, how the IT manufacturing is really stimulating innovation and supporting the manufacturing system. Thank you very much. Now let's turn to our 4th speaker, Gaetano Patrimia, Innovation and IP Manager at Prima Additive. So he started in 2017 with a focus on additive manufacturing, laser processes, and digitalization. In 2019, he patented, together with other 2 colleagues, a laser cell system for multi-process applications. And today, he will share more insights about the project Converging. So thank you. The floor is yours, Gaetano.
Yes. Thank you very much, and good afternoon to all of our audience. Yes, directly connected with the previous presentation, I will show you about the Converging project. The Converging project is an European funded project in the Horizon Europe Framework Program, and is focused basically on the development, deployment and validation of a smart and reconfigurable production system that will include multiple automation and robo collaboration. This with a plus of an integrated artificial intelligence-based cognition that will basically exploit the collective perception of all of these resources in order to allow them to interact within each other and also to coexist with the human under what we call the social industrial environment. This will ensure a trustful, safe and inclusive user experience. The Converging main objectives are 5, and you can see clearly stated here, but what I would like to very briefly present to you is the main process of our project that will start from the data collection, the perceive. So basically we start our flow with collecting all the data coming from the different resources that we have in our use cases, so collecting the big data. Then all of this will be passed to the brain of the project, so the artificial intelligence that will basically, let's say, try to take all this input and also let's say see the outside input coming from external, and also try to let's say to provide some different plan to the production system. Then not only this, but then will be also the capability to act, let's say, to react to this external input, and so the production line will be capable to adapt thanks to the robotics and the automation. So what will be a flexible manufacturing system. All of this under a, let's say, collaborative environment where human and robot will coexist together. In order to validate our project, we have 4 main use cases. I'm going, let's say, to go more in detail on our use case focused on the additive manufacturing post-processing, but I would like to show you very briefly the other 4 use cases that are very interesting, because the first one is coming from the automotive use case with the Ford, where basically we put together the skill of the operator that can mark, for instance, the area for polishing of stamping dies. So we can mark the stamping, and then the robot, let's say, will do the hard work. Then with the white goods use cases with the Electrolux for kitchen knobs assembly, where basically the robot will try to understand what the operator will do, will try to anticipate him and help the operator in his job. And the last 2 that, let me say, are the most critical ones, because these are done in some hazardous environment. The first one in particular is from the aeronautic use case from AEI, and is focused on the fuel tank inspection. This is done today by operators that have to go inside that fuel tank, so you can imagine how hard this job could be. And we will try to do this, of course, with a robotized inspection and maintenance of these fuel tanks. And finally, the last one that is our main use cases, that is focused on the additive manufacturing post-processing. Also, this in our case could be a very, let's say, critical use case, because we can handle sometimes with hazardous powders, so for instance titanium, aluminum, and could be critical for the operators. Just to give you an idea of what we are talking about the technology, here there are all the, let's say, our product portfolio of the machine that we provide that are focused on 2 main technologies, additive technologies, the powder bed diffusion and the direct energy deposition. And just for you to understand what we are talking about, this machine could be, let's say, from the smallest one to the biggest one, could be quite hard for the operator to, let's say, to go inside and do some, let's say, manual job. And just for you that are not so familiar with the technology, the only thing that you have to know is that with the direct energy deposition, basically we spread powder just where needed, and then we melt directly with the laser system. While on the other side, with the powder bed fusion, we have to cover all the working area and all the, let's say, the chamber with this powder, metal powder, and then just melt the area needed. So you can easily understand that at the end of the process, there could be a lot of powders, maybe dangerous powder, inside of the building chamber, and the operator need to, of course, remove the exceeded powder. So another very important aspect for the, let's say, the post-processing of additive manufacturing is the support removal. Most of the time, let's say, for complex geometry, you need to have this support on on the part, and these today are removed manually. So in case the part, okay, are a small one, it could be easy, but you can imagine that most of the time the part produced are quite big, quite heavy, and it's not so easy for the operator to remove this kind of support. Also, we have to say that the operator can introduce some defect, so we also need to avoid this. What will be the solution within Converging that we are trying to achieve? First of all, the handling of the heavy part. So there will be a robot that could, let's say, provide the part to the operators in a more ergonomic and easy way in order to remove this support. And on the other side, there could be a robot arm that can, let's say, do the same job at the same time, so also reducing the work for the operators. So at the end, let's say the future vision will be, let's say, divided in three main phases. The first one, the part removal from the additive machine. So the robot will identify the part and remove the exceeding powder from the building chamber. Then the post-processing, so present the part with an ergonomic position to the operators, and also the mobot will provide some tolling to the operator, and finally the support removal. The third one will be the final transportation to the storage location, thanks to some AGVs that will move the part through the storage location. The main KPIs that we are trying to target will be a reduction of the maximum load for the operators that typically could go from 20-30 kilograms at a maximum of 5 kilograms. The cycle time for completing this post-process sometimes could take 3-4 days. We will try to reach the maximum of 1 day, and the post-processing cost reduction of at least 15%. Then the number of induced defect in an optic of a zero defect manufacturing, we are trying to reach the zero, let's say the zero defect, where today we have a baseline of 2 to 5 defect. So yes, that was my presentation. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Gaetano. Very interesting presentation. And I believe it is very important as well to see the direct experience that companies like the Prima Additive they're having, and sorry, how they apply the human-robots collaboration in their own activities. So now let's turn to our final speaker, Steven Dont. Steven is a senior researcher at TNO and visiting professor at KU Leuven in Belgium. And his main focus is on the impacts of newest technologies on organizational and work practices. He coordinated several Horizon 2020 projects and now is leading the consortium of Bridges 5.0. So, Steven, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Marina. I'm just checking here. I'm going the wrong way, I think. That's... I'm not sure where I am. Yeah, okay, I got it.
That's good.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you for having me at COP28, and I'm very pleased and I'm very grateful to be able to present the Bridges 5.0 project that we are connected to. And we are focusing with this project on one of the main actors in this discussion about sustainability in the future. And this main actor is the company level, the company and management and its workforce. If we want to change the future, that's the level that needs to change. We can do a lot of with other actors, but it's the companies that need to provide a new kind of environment. They need to be submerged with this idea of sustainability, and they need to take the actions to do that. And it's a lot, and we've heard a lot of discussion on technology, but in the end, it's also about the kind of skills that the workforce will need within this transition that we're going to be looking at in the future. And the Bridges project is mainly focused on to develop these workforce skills for Industry 5.0. So let's see if I can do that right. Yeah, and we the main idea is that if we're looking at the company level, we need to change the mindset, we need to change the behavior, and we need to change the structures in these companies. Is it impossible to do? Well, we see examples of companies that are already Industry 5.0. They are either net zero or they're even net negative. So there are examples, and the industry is capable of helping this world. And we want to find these examples, and we want to build with them solutions for the future. But we know that innovation within companies is too low. We need to improve innovation rates. We've seen a lot of innovations, technologies here, but if you look in the general picture, then you see that innovation levels are too low. And the second point is that the use of technology, even if we're talking about robots and all those kind of things, is just too low. So there is a problem with innovation rates and with technologies. And the main driver to improve that is to work on these workforce skills. So it's not so much about basic skills, basic digital skills. It's about bringing these high-level skills towards workers and building on those skills that are there. I think that Chris Ivory has pointed out clearly in his presentation that you need to trust the worker to do that. In our project, in the Bridges project, we're going to be working on training interventions that already exist, but that need to have this new dimension of Industry 5.0. And we're looking particularly towards two interventions. The one is called the training factory, and the other one is the learning factory. So let me go forward. Well, the training factory is in fact an intervention that already exists, in which there's a focus on problems within companies. So companies have an issue, either with technology, trying to get to work, trying to understand what the customer wants, trying to deal with issues, getting the processes in order. And if you're looking at that, you can develop workforce skills to help solve these issues. And it's a collaboration between management and between employees, and trying to work forward on those topics. There's also a second intervention that we're looking at this project. It's called the learning factory, which might be in connection to companies, but is mainly focused on the collaboration between the schooling system and what is happening in the company. And there the starting point is not so much a problem that a company wants to solve, but technologies that exist, but that are not taken up within the other companies. So we're trying to work with schools, with vet education, with stakeholders to improve the take-up and the use of these technologies. And for both interventions, the teaching factory and the learning factory, we want to implement the ideas of human centricity, sustainability, and resilience. How do we do that within these training interventions? And we're doing that with 5 major companies in Europe. We're doing that with 12 learning networks all over Europe. So we have a lot of work to do over the coming years. And we want to inform companies, we want to inform decision makers, policy makers on what is happening. So we're collecting a lot of data. We're doing that, for example, together with CEDEFOP, the European Agency of Vocational Education and Information in Europe. So we're using big data on all vacancies in Europe, not so much to focus on the vacancies, but to focus on the information about the company practices that exist. So we want to develop this kind of information using the latest development in large language models, trying to understand what kind of behavior we can see at the company level. But we want to also connect that to other kinds of sources and inform those that are working on what is happening. Because what we know is that there is a lot of technology, there is a lot of innovation, so insufficient, as I've said, but it's also because companies are not investing into what we would say the learning organization. So companies need to be informed on how they can do that and how we can help them achieve that. A lot of information of us is available on the Bridges 5.0 website. It's a source which can help policymakers, which can help the decision makers, stakeholders in Europe. We are collaborating together with one of the major trade unions in Europe, Industriol, with the Employers Association, CMET, and we're hoping with this stakeholder approach to be able to drive the changes that are needed for Europe.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Once again, very interesting presentation. And really, I like to underline, it's really crucial to move from technology-driven to human-centric approach, exactly what the project Bridget 5.0 is doing. So thanks again. Now, we concluded here the 5 presentations of our speakers, all very interesting, and we have, I believe, learned a lot about Industry 4.5, its implementation, but also the current challenges. Now, I would like to open the floor to the audience. And for that, we will use, as I mentioned at the beginning, the Slido and let me check the Slido. In that case, I take out my glasses. Allora, I read the first question, which is, how can the industry receive support in developing solutions aligned with sustainability principle? So who is volunteer to pick up? It can be even 2 colleagues to pick up the first question. Thank you, Stephen.
Yes. Well, if it starts at the industry level, as I've pointed out, it's about trying to find support in the educational system and trying to find support in new ways of thinking that are needed for this industrial change. So we hope from our project, from the British project, that having an understanding of these existing interventions, but then adapted to Industry 5.0, that can help them to create this alignment that is needed in the future.
Thank you. Anybody would like to add? Otherwise, I go to the second question, and I read it. How will the community of practice contribute to support companies in adapting to the changing ecosystem and meeting the requirements of Industry 5.0? Now I have 2 candidates. Very good. Maybe you can start, Livio, and you can complement.
Thanks. So the community of practice is one of the initiatives that I mentioned earlier. So it's sort of policy-driven one. The earlier question was much more on industry itself, but also helping industry. On this, it is part. The community of practice is part of this offer to industry to help share best practices, to get the leaders in this transition to help the others who are interested to make it. So it is about sharing and exchanging best practices, but also drafting common guidelines, also pulling resources, also making jointly the case for consumers, and be it business to business or business to consumer type of industry players, to really let them be responding to demands of their customers, to demands of citizens at large. It's really, in this sense, draws back to what I mentioned in the beginning, that it's an initiative that aims to give voice and action, a sort of role, an active role to industry in this transition, so that it's not just driven by policy and by civil society, but by industry itself. And I think that is the sort of support that the public sector can afford industry, but at the end of the day, and this is also the message that we're trying to make, it's in the industry's self-interest to do this. It's in the industry's self-interest to work with their workers, so that they stay attractive and that they stay competitive, because at the end of the day, it is a sort of market economy dynamic that we're trying to help them with. But I think Chris wanted to...
Well, I guess it also links to the second question after this, which is about education. You know, we need to really think about how we educate our managers, and we are certainly not in our MBA programs, and I can tell you this for a fact, not educating them in this kind of sense that we need to move into a new mindset, new era. And we're not achieving that. I think it was, again, I'm tipping into the next question now, which was about business education. I think Martin Parker said, I don't know if you're aware of him, professor in the UK, said we should bulldoze all of our business schools and start again.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So the follow-up question was, do you think the current business education is no longer sufficient for this purpose? And do you need to reconsider how the train on next generation of managers, how to train, the next generation of managers. So anything? Thank you, Gaetano. Maybe you can complete.
I think that the short answer would be yes, of course, is no longer sufficient for its purpose. But then the problem is how, what we have to do, and how we can manage this. And the problem is that at the end, let's say, a good manager is the one that is capable to understand, let's say, what will be the next future. Because if we think to, let's say, to train our managers with what we see today, maybe tomorrow it's already too late. So I think that at the end we have to manage to train our managers to understand the real future, the real next needs of the let's say of our society. And I think that this will be the difference between a good manager and bad manager.
Thank you, Gaetano. Very good. Oh yeah, please, Nikki.
Just one on top of that, it is important also in the training aspect to consider that we need to integrate the twin transition parameters, so that the next generation of managers have already integrated in the skill set what is needed for the digital and the green transition, and also to help them have access to the pan-European innovations that are already available and how they can work to integrate them in their industry and in their processes.
Very good point, Nikki. Thank you. You wanted to?
Yeah, no, I think training is important, and the managerial mindset is important, and practices. It is, as you pointed out, Stephen, there's the practices that need to change. But I think education is possibly too weak a lever for that. I think there's no point well-trained managers going into an industrial context where they're still playing the same old game, as it were. And government has levers at its disposal. Taxation changes. At the minute, we tax labour very highly and capital very low. So of course, that encourages automation, for example. So I think we need to think about things like that in the regulatory environment. If we ignore these things in this discussion about 5.0, then I don't think we're going to get there.
So from what you are saying, it must be a 360 degrees approach. All the angles should be tackled to have a success results, from education to experience.
If I may just to add on this, again, drawing back to the presentation I made, one of these reports that I pointed out, drawn up by the ESIR group of advisors, pointed exactly to these levers. So we have education, we have taxation, but we also have financial flows. So we're trying to, with initiatives like the taxonomy, to drive the wider ecosystem in which our European industry operates to make this transition, be it, as I said, financial flows or skills or education or taxation, to really help that. So I think the question was very right in the sense of pointing to one aspect, but the conversation and the transformation, I said not revolution, but I think it sort of starts to add up to a revolution, is much broader than that.
Now, there are still two questions. I'm not sure we have time. I can pick it up one. I read. In your opinion, what are the key challenges in the industrial transformation in Europe? If you can say really one sentence, because we have to conclude it.
Well, if I can start, sorry, Marina.
Yes, of course.
So one of the main challenges is that we have to understand how we can get this collaboration together. Comparing Belgium and the Netherlands, the two countries where I work, productivity in Belgium is about added value per worker is about 25% higher in Belgium than compared to the Netherlands. But trade unions are extremely strong in Belgium. They're quite weak in the Netherlands. So it's not the fact that you have strong trade unions that it's going to be an impediment for change. You have to work with your workers. It has to become human-centric if we want to make this change work.
I think everybody agreed with your last sentence. It has to become human-centric. So I'm sorry we can't continue with the question and answer simply because we have to respect the timetable. And I would take the opportunity of the last minute to say a few words of conclusion. First of all, warmly thank the audience for being with us all this hour. And of course, to all of you speakers, very interesting presentation, and I learned a lot from you. You really share the fascinating insight into the industrial landscape, emphasizing that effective facilitation of digital and green transition demands a shift towards new broader perspective and new models. I think that's a conclusion that we can all share. Now, I have personally two takeaways from my experience with you now. The first, human centricity marks a paradigm shift, placing the humans at the core of an industrial process. And I think we all agree with this. And therefore, it's necessary to create work environments that prioritize well-being of workers, foster collaboration between humans and machines and robots, and prioritize the development of human skills that can really complement the technological advancement. And as a second point, I would like to underline the human-centric policies are imperative to enable the green and digital transition. And this includes upskilling, we mentioned before, upskilling the workforce for greener jobs, aligning skills with evolving technologies. It was mentioned in your interventions as well. And finally, I can say I'm proud that the European Commission is really play a key role parts by investing a lot in research and innovation to enable this large-scale uptake towards human-centric practices. So many thanks again for all this. And for the audience, if you want to consult more projects funded by the European Commission, just go to Cordis results pack on human-centric manufacturing, and you will find a series of other projects. Last things, don't forget, if you have 5 minutes at the end, to check the screen after the end of the session for a very short satisfaction survey on Slido about this event. And I conclude with really wishing all of you a good continuation on your activities at COP28. Many thanks again, speakers, audience, and goodbye.